The Count raised his walking stick like a weapon, not at the woman but at the magistrate reaching for the smallest child. "Touch them," he said with aristocratic ice, "and I'll see you hanged before sunset." The governess didn't know if she'd been saved or delivered to something worse. But 12 hours ago, she'd poisoned someone to get here.
Hello. If you believe every underdog deserves to be seen and lifted up, your support means more than you know. Hitting 1,000 subscribers isn't just a number for us, it's what allows these real, hopeful stories to reach people who might desperately need them to stay motivated. Your one click could be the reason someone keeps going. Please help us reach more hearts by subscribing now.
Vera's hands still trembled from what she'd done. She'd poisoned a man, not enough to kill, just enough to buy an hour. Enough to run. Wallace Drummond had been selling children. 4 of them were scheduled for a Boston textile mill in 2 days. Jenny, Judy, Jesse, Charles, orphans with no one to miss them. Except Vera missed them. So she took them. 3 days running. 3 days hiding in moorland caves, feet bleeding, children crying. Then the estate appeared through the fee, their last chance or their doom.
Vera Stevenson's hands shook as she poured the laudanum into Wallace Drummond's evening brandy. Not enough to kill, just enough to buy time. London, 1878. The Drummond townhouse in Mayfair was all marble and mirrors and money built on suffering. Vera had been governess here for 8 months, long enough to learn the truth. Wallace Drummond didn't just own textile factories. He owned children. She discovered it by accident 3 weeks ago. A ledger left open in his study. Names, ages, destinations. Boston, Philadelphia, New York. Children shipped like cargo to American mills where 12-hour days and missing fingers were considered normal. The orphanages called it adoption. Drummond called it business. Vera called it slavery. Tonight, she'd overheard him finalizing the next shipment. For children, Jenny, Judy, Jesse, Charles. Departure in 48 hours from Southampton docks. The children had no idea. They thought they were finally getting families. Vera watched Drummond drain his brandy, settle into his chair with the evening paper. She counted seconds. 90. His head nodded. 120. The paper slipped from his fingers. She didn't wait for 150. Jenny. Vera burst into the nursery where the 4 children were preparing for bed. Get your coats. Now. Jenny, 12 years old with serious dark eyes, saw something in Vera's face. What's wrong? No questions. Jesse, help Charles with his shoes. Judy, grab the blanket from your bed. We're leaving. Leaving where? Jesse asked, 8 years old and always questioning. Somewhere safe. Move. 10-year-old Judy was already wrapping Charles in the blanket. The boy was only 6, confused, scared. Miss Vera, I don't understand. I know, darling. Trust me. Please. She grabbed 40 pounds from Drummond's desk drawer, a fortune and a crime, and hustled them out the servants' entrance. The night streets of Mayfair were gaslit and dangerous. Vera kept the children close, moving fast toward King's Cross Station. Miss Vera, you're scaring us. Jenny's voice was steady, but her hand trembled in Vera's grip. Mr. Drummond was going to send you away. All of you. To factories in America where children work until they die. Jenny went pale. She was smart enough to know Vera didn't lie. But the adoption papers were fake. All of it was fake. They reached the station just as the last Manchester train was boarding. Vera bought tickets with shaking hands, praying no one had discovered Drummond yet, praying the laudanum held. They collapsed into a third-class compartment. Charles immediately started crying. Jesse tried to be brave. Judy held her little brother. Jenny stared at Vera with dulled eyes. What did you do? Vera's voice was barely a whisper. I poisoned him. Not to kill, just to stop him. They'll hang you for that. Only if they catch me. The train lurched forward. London disappeared into the night. Vera had no plan beyond run. No destination except away. She'd saved 4 children and destroyed her entire life in the process. Charles fell asleep against her shoulder. His face was so small, so innocent. Worth it, she thought. Even if they catch me. Even if I hang. Worth it. But 3 hours later, when they disembarked at a small station outside Manchester, Vera saw the poster on the wall. Her face. Her name. Reward. 100 pounds for information leading to the capture of Vera Stevenson, wanted for attempted murder and kidnapping. Jenny saw it too. They know. Then we keep moving. To where? Vera looked at the four exhausted, terrified children depending on her. She had 38 pounds left, no plan, and all of London's police hunting them. I don't know, she admitted. But anywhere is better than Drummond's factories. They disappeared into the Devonshire moorland. And the real nightmare began. 3 days in hell. That's what the moorland became. Cold, wet, endless miles of nothing but grass and rock and the constant fear of being found. Vera's boots disintegrated on day 2. The leather split, soles flapping with each step. By day 3, her feet were bleeding through her stockings, leaving red prints in the mud. The children were worse. Jesse's cough started on the first night, wet and rattling. Judy gave him her shawl, then shivered through the darkness. Jenny never complained, just kept walking with grim determination, but Vera saw how she favored her left ankle. Charles stopped talking entirely. They'd hidden in a shepherd's abandoned cottage the first night, in a cave the second. Food ran out after day 1. The bread and cheese Vera had grabbed from Drummond's kitchen, gone in hours. On day 2, Jenny found wild berries. Half of them made Jessie sick. By day 3, they were dying. Vera knew it. Saw it in Charles's glazed eyes, in the way Jessie stumbled more than walked, in how Judy had stopped shivering. Hypothermia's final stage. Miss Vera. Jenny's voice cut through the fog. Literally, the moorland had disappeared into thick, choking mist. I think Charles is. The boy collapsed, just folded like paper and dropped. Vera caught him, felt how light he was, how cold. His lips were blue, his breathing shallow. No. Vera lifted him, gasping at the weight. 6 years old shouldn't be this heavy. No, you don't get to give up. None of you. Where are we even going? Jessie asked, tears streaming. We're lost. We're going to die out here. We're not. Vera's voice broke. We're not dying. But she didn't believe it. 3 days running from train stations where Inspector Hartwell had posted men. 3 days avoiding roads where constables patrolled. 3 days of nothing but more and cold and hunger. Jenny grabbed Vera's arm. Miss Vera, look, through the fog. Lights. Faint but real. Not stars. Windows. A house, Judy whispered. Is it real? Vera didn't care if it was a mirage. She ran. The estate materialized like something from a fever dream. Massive. Gothic. Stone walls rising out of the mist like a fortress. Blackwood Hall, though Vera didn't know the name yet. She found a servant's entrance, pounded on the door with her free hand while clutching Charles with the other. The children collapsed around her, unable to stand anymore. Please. Vera screamed into the wood. Please, someone. The children. Her legs gave out. She fell, still holding Charles, the other 3 children piling against her like broken dolls. The door opened. A butler. Old, stern, impeccably dressed despite the hour. Behind him, lamplight and warmth and the smell of food that made Vera's stomach convulse. Good Lord, the butler breathed. Please. Vera's voice was gone, reduced to a rasp. Just water. Just. A figure appeared behind the butler. Tall, gaunt, dark hair going gray at the temples. Eyes like winter. Count Ferdinand Cole, though Vera didn't know that either. She just saw a man who looked at them the way you'd look at something dead on the road. Shall I turn them away, my lord? The butler asked. Ferdinand stared at the pile of humanity bleeding and dying on his doorstep. At Charles, unconscious in Vera's arms. At Jenny's desperate face. At Jessie's rattling breath. At Judy, who'd finally stopped shivering entirely. The silence stretched. Vera prepared to beg, to grovel, to offer anything. Then Ferdinand's voice, cold as the moor. Carry them inside. The butler hesitated. My lord, we don't know. Inside. Now. Get Mrs. Kemp. Tell her to prepare the East Wing guest rooms and send for Dr. Morrison immediately. Hands lifted Vera. Lifted the children. The world tilted as she was carried through doorways, upstairs, into warmth. The last thing Vera saw before unconsciousness claimed her was Ferdinand's face, expressionless and distant, watching them like specimens. She didn't know if they'd been saved or captured, but they were alive. For now, Vera woke to softness. Actual softness. A real bed with clean sheets and a feather mattress. Sunlight streaming through lace curtains. Her feet bandaged. Her dress replaced with a nightgown that smelled of lavender. For 3 seconds, she thought she'd died. Then the door opened, and a woman entered. 50s, gray hair in a tight bun, capable hands carrying a breakfast tray. Awake, then. Good. I'm Mrs. Dorothy Kemp, housekeeper. Drink this." She handed Vera a cup of something warm and herbal. "Dr. Morrison says you're malnourished and exhausted, but you'll live." The children are in the adjacent rooms, all sleeping still. The children, are they alive? The little one, Charles, was touch and go. Hypothermia. But the Count sat with him through the night, kept him warm. Dr. Morrison says another hour on that moor and he'd have been gone. Vera's hands shook around the cup. The Count Ferdinand Cole, master of Blackwood Hall. This is his estate. Mrs. Kemp's expression softened slightly. "You're lucky he found you. Most men of his station would have sent you to the workhouse." "Why didn't he?" Mrs. Kemp was quiet for a moment. "That's not for me to say. Drink your tea. He wants to see you in an hour." The adjacent rooms held the children. Jenny was awake, sitting with Judy and Jessie, who were still sleeping. Charles was in a separate room, small and pale, but breathing steadily. "Miss Vera." Jenny rushed to her. "Where are we?" "Safe, I think." Vera held her. "Are you all right?" "Better than you. Your feet will heal. That's all that matters." An hour later, Vera stood in Ferdinand's study. He sat behind a massive oak desk, fingers steepled, watching her with those cold winter eyes. "Sit." She sat. "Your name?" "Vera Stevenson." "Why are you running, Miss Stevenson?" She'd prepared the lie. "My husband died. I'm seeking employment. Got lost on the moor." Ferdinand's expression didn't change. "You're a terrible liar. 4 children, no husband, fleeing across Devonshire moorland with bleeding feet, and 38 pounds in stolen money." "Yes. I checked your dress pocket." "Try again." Vera's throat closed. I don't actually care." Ferdinand stood, moved to the window. "You're clearly running from something. Someone. That's your business. I'm granting you 3 days shelter while you recover. After that, you leave." "Understood." "Yes. Thank you, my lord." "Don't thank me. I'm not doing this from kindness. I'm doing it because Mrs. Kemp would have poisoned my dinner if I'd turned away dying children." He glanced at her. 3 days, Miss Stevenson. Then you're someone else's problem." The estate was a mausoleum. Vera realized it over the next 2 days. Beautiful but dead. Portraits everywhere of a stunning woman with kind eyes. "Louisa," Mrs. Kemp whispered. "And twin boys, maybe 5 years old, with Ferdinand's dark hair." "Scarlet fever," Mrs. Kemp explained quietly. 7 years ago. The Count was in Vienna on diplomatic business. Got the telegram too late. By the time he returned, they were already buried. He's been alone since. Alone isn't the word. Empty. Like he's been dead too. Just nobody buried him yet. The children explored cautiously. Charles discovered Ferdinand's library, reached for a toy soldier on a shelf. "Don't touch that." Ferdinand's shout made Charles drop it. The porcelain soldier shattered. Charles burst into tears. Jenny pulled him away. Ferdinand stood frozen, staring at the broken pieces, his dead son's toy, and Vera saw something crack in his face. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely. "Charles, I didn't mean." But Charles was already gone, sobbing in Jenny's arms. That night, Vera couldn't sleep. She wandered the halls, heard piano music, found Ferdinand in a moonlit music room, playing something beautiful and devastating. He didn't stop when she entered, just kept playing, tears streaming silently down his face. Vera understood then. They were both broken, both running from graves. And somehow, impossibly, they'd found each other. Ferdinand saved them from the moor, but can he save himself from 7 years of grief? Subscribe to see what happens when the past catches up and this fragile sanctuary shatters. You won't believe what happened next. Day 4 started with another disaster. Jenny was dusting the sitting room, insisted on helping despite Mrs. Kemp's protests, when her sleeve caught a porcelain shepherdess. Ferdinand's mother's favorite, Mrs. Kemp had mentioned. 18th century. Priceless. It hit the floor and exploded into a dozen pieces. Jenny stood frozen, face white with terror. Vera rushed in, saw the damage, saw Ferdinand in the doorway. "I'm sorry," Jenny whispered. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean." Ferdinand held up a hand, walked to the fragments, knelt. "Do you know what my mother told me about this piece?" His voice was surprisingly gentle. She said it had been broken twice before. Once in 1802 during a house party. Once in 1845 when my father threw it at a wall during an argument. He picked up 2 pieces, fitted them together. She said broken things that get repaired are stronger than things that never broke at all. He looked at Jenny. "Fetch the adhesive from the library. I'll show you how to fix it." They spent an hour carefully reconstructing the shepherdess. Ferdinand's hands were steady, patient. He told Ginny about his mother, about growing up in this house, about learning that nothing stays perfect forever. My sons broke things constantly, he said quietly. Thomas shattered a Ming vase, trying to catch a cricket. Edward knocked over an entire shelf of my wife's crystal collection, playing soldiers. His voice cracked. I was furious. Shouted at them. They were 4 years old, and I shouted. Ginny touched his hand. I'm sure they knew you loved them. Ferdinand's eyes filled. I hope so. I didn't get to tell them enough. That night, Jessie spiked a fever. The cough that had started on the moor returned with vengeance. Dr. Morrison was summoned, diagnosed bronchitis, prescribed rest, and steam treatments. Ferdinand carried Jessie to his own chamber, warmer, larger fireplace. Set up the steam, tend himself. Sat through the night applying cool cloths, monitoring breathing, whispering stories. Vera found them at dawn. Ferdinand asleep in the chair, Jessie's small hand clutching his. Both breathing in sync. He stayed all night, Mrs. Kemp whispered. Just like he did with his boys when they were sick. Ferdinand woke, saw Vera watching. He's better. Fever broke an hour ago. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Ferdinand's voice was raw. I couldn't save my sons. But I could save him. The walls were crumbling. Vera felt it. Saw it in how Ferdinand smiled when Judy showed him the scones she'd baked with Mrs. Kemp. Heard it in his laugh when Charles asked if counts were higher than dukes, and did that mean he was more important than the Queen? Technically no, Ferdinand said seriously. But don't tell Her Majesty I said so. Charles giggled. Actually giggled. The boy who'd stopped talking on the moor. Thomas Bridges, the groundskeeper, took Jessie to see the horses. The boy came back muddy and glowing, talking about a mare named Duchess who let him brush her mane. The estate came alive. Slowly, like something frozen finally thawing. One evening, Vera found Ferdinand in the library. He was holding a letter, face ashen. What is it? He handed it to her. Telegraph from London. Inspector Silas Hartwell en route to Blackwood Hall with legal documents regarding 4 children in Count's custody. Arrival tomorrow midday. Vera's blood turned to ice. He found us. Who is he? What documents? Vera collapsed into a chair. The lies were done. She told him everything. Drummond. The trafficking. The poisoning. The children stolen to save them. Ferdinand listened without interrupting. When she finished, his jaw was tight. You brought danger to my house. I know. I'm sorry. We'll leave tonight. Charles appeared in the doorway, clutching his wooden horse. Sir Count, are we going away? Ferdinand looked at the boy, at his trust, his hope, at Ginny behind him, protective, at Judy and Jessie peeking around the corner. Something in his face changed. Hardened. Decided. No. Ferdinand's voice was steel. You're not going anywhere. But the inspector. Let him come. Ferdinand stood, shoulders back, every inch the aristocrat. I've spent 7 years running from life. I won't run anymore. Inspector Silas Hartwell arrived at noon in a black carriage with 2 constables and the confidence of a man who'd never lost. Ferdinand met him at the entrance, walking cane in hand, silver-topped, heavy enough to be a weapon if needed. Count Cole. Hartwell's smile was oil and poison. Pleasure to finally meet Devonshire's most reclusive aristocrat. Inspector, state your business. 4 children, stolen from their legal guardian in London. I believe you're harboring them. I'm sheltering refugees who nearly died on my property. Hartwell produced a leather folder. These refugees, as you call them, are wards of Mr. Wallace Drummond of Mayfair. Legally adopted. Papers signed, witnessed, filed with the High Court. He handed Ferdinand the documents. Ferdinand read them slowly. They looked legitimate. Official seals. Signatures. Drummond listed as guardian, authorized to place the children in appropriate employment opportunities abroad. Employment. Ferdinand's voice could have cut glass. You mean factory slavery. I mean legal contracts. Mr. Drummond is a respected businessman. The woman who took these children, Vera Stevenson, is wanted for attempted murder. She poisoned him, kidnapped his wards, fled across England. Hartwell stepped closer. Now, you're either an accomplice or a fool. Which is it, Count? Ferdinand raised his cane, not quite threatening, not quite defensive. Somewhere between. You're not taking them. I have legal authority. Then you'll exercise it through proper channels. I'm invoking my right as a peer to demand verification through the Home Office in London. These documents could be forged. Hartwell's smile thinned. They're not. Then verification won't be a problem. 48 hours, Inspector. You post your men around my property if you must, but you don't set foot inside these walls again until I receive confirmation from the Home Secretary himself. The two constables shifted nervously. Challenging a Count's authority on his own estate was legally murky territory. Hartwell's eyes narrowed. 48 hours. Then I'm coming back with a high court magistrate and taking those children. If you interfere, I'll see you charged with obstruction. He left. Ferdinand watched the carriage disappear, then noticed two constables taking positions at the estate gates. Trapped. Inside, Vera was frantic. The papers will look legitimate. Drummond has judges in his pocket. Clerks will swear to anything. Verification won't help. I've sent a telegram to Lord Edmund Carver, the Home Secretary. He's an old colleague from my diplomatic days. And if he can't help? Ferdinand had no answer. That evening, they stood in the library, the space between them charged with everything unsaid. The children were asleep upstairs, temporarily safe, temporarily theirs. I should run, Vera whispered. Take them tonight. Disappear. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. Ferdinand moved closer. The moment I carried Charles inside, it became my fight. You'll lose everything. Your reputation, your standing. I lost everything 7 years ago. Everything that mattered. His hand touched her face. And then you arrived. You and 4 broken children who somehow made me remember what being alive feels like. Ferdinand. I'm terrified, he admitted. Terrified of caring again. Terrified of losing again. But more terrified of letting you go. Vera kissed him. Desperate, salt wet with tears, full of everything they couldn't say. He pulled back, breathing hard. We can't. Not while. I know. But when this is over. If we survive this. A noise from upstairs. Charles, crying. Nightmare. They both ran. Charles was tangled in sheets, sobbing. The bad man came. He took us away. Sir Count couldn't stop him. Ferdinand gathered him up. I will stop him. I promise. But he's got papers. Legal papers. Jenny explained. Sometimes, Ferdinand said carefully, legal doesn't mean right. And sometimes good men have to break bad laws. Charles's grip tightened. Don't let him take us. Please. Never. But as Ferdinand held the boy, as Vera watched from the doorway, they both knew the same truth. Hartwell was coming back in 2 days. The papers would be verified, and they had no way to fight legal documents backed by London's most powerful industrialist, unless they found another way. A dangerous way. The telegram arrived at dawn on the 2nd day. Home Office confirms documents legitimate. Drummond legal guardian. Regret cannot intervene. Carver. Ferdinand crumpled the paper in his fist. Vera saw his face and knew. They're coming today, aren't they? Yes. But Hartwell didn't come alone. At 10 o'clock, 3 carriages rolled through the gates. Hartwell, 2 constables, and Wallace Drummond himself, recovered from the poisoning, dressed in an expensive suit, radiating power and vindication. Behind them, a high court magistrate and 4 hired men, thugs disguised as legal escorts. Ferdinand met them in the entrance hall. Vera stood at the top of the stairs, children hidden behind her. Drummond smiled like a shark. Count Cole, what an impressive estate. Shame about all this unpleasantness. State your terms. Terms. Drummond laughed. I'm not negotiating. I'm collecting my property. For children. 1 attempted murderess. All coming with me. Name your price. Drummond's smile widened. He'd been waiting for this. £80,000. A fortune. Ferdinand's entire liquid assets. Done. And your vote. Ferdinand went still. What? Your seat in the House of Lords. I have a railroad monopoly bill coming to vote next month. Worth millions. I need aristocratic support. You vote yes, the children go free. No. Ferdinand's voice was ice. I'll give you every penny I have, but I won't help you rob this country. Then you get nothing. Drummond gestured to Hartwell. Arrest Miss Stevenson for attempted murder and poisoning. Take the children to the Southampton docks. Ship leaves for Boston at 6. Vera started down the stairs. Don't. Wait. Ferdinand's word cracked like a whip. Everyone stopped. He looked at Drummond. At the magistrate. At the legal documents that meant 4 children would die slowly in textile mills. At Charles, peeking around Vera's skirt, terrified. Ferdinand had lost his sons to fever while he was 1,000 miles away, helpless. He'd lived 7 years with that failure carved into his soul. He couldn't fail again. Take Blackwood Hall. Silence. Absolute silence. What? Drummond's smile faltered. The estate. The land. The manor house. 400 years of Cole family history. Worth 10 times what you'd make from these children. Ferdinand's voice was steady, but his hands shook. Sign legal custody of the 4 children to me. Release all claims. Drop all charges against Miss Stevenson. And Blackwood Hall is yours. No. Vera screamed. Ferdinand, you can't. Mrs. Kemp, Ferdinand said quietly. Take the children upstairs. My lord. Now. The housekeeper ushered the crying children away. Charles fought, reaching for Ferdinand. Sir Count, don't let him win. I'm not letting him win, Charles. I'm choosing you. When they were gone, Drummond circled Ferdinand like a predator. You'd give up your ancestral home? Your family's legacy? 4 gutter snipes and a governess. Yes. You're insane. Probably. Ferdinand looked at Vera. But I've been dead for 7 years. They brought me back to life. That's worth more than stones and land. The magistrate cleared his throat. My lord, are you certain? This is highly irregular. Draw up the papers. It took 2 hours. Ferdinand signed away everything. The estate. The grounds. The house where his sons were born and his wife died. 4 centuries of history, gone with ink and seal. Drummond took the deed, triumph blazing in his eyes. Pleasure doing business, Count. Oh wait, you're not a count anymore, are you? No estate, no title holdings. Just a man. Just a man, Ferdinand agreed. But the children are free. For now. Drummond leaned close. But accidents happen. Governesses disappear. Children get lost. Remember that, Mr. Cole. He left. Took Ferdinand's entire life with him. Vera found Ferdinand in the empty library, staring at nothing. Why? Her voice broke. Why would you do this? Ferdinand looked at his hands. Because nobody saved my sons. But I could save them. At what cost? Everything. He smiled, but it was shattered. And it was worth it. Outside, Charles pressed his face to the window, watching the carriages disappear. Miss Vera, he whispered. Are we really safe now? Vera didn't know how to answer. Ferdinand sacrificed everything, but Drummond's threat still hangs over them. Subscribe now to see how a steward's secret and a desperate midnight raid will either save them all or destroy what's left. Ferdinand had 3 days to vacate Blackwood Hall. 3 days to pack 400 years of family history. 3 days before Drummond took possession and Ferdinand became nobody. He moved through the halls like a ghost, touching door frames, running his hands along walls. Saying goodbye to the house where he was born, where his sons died, where he'd found Vera and the children bleeding on his doorstep. Mrs. Kemp wept openly while packing. Thomas Bridges cursed Drummond with every box he loaded. The children were silent, sensing the weight of what Ferdinand had done. On the second night, Edmund Whitley, Ferdinand's steward, knocked on his chamber door. My lord. A word. Privately. They went to the study, soon to be Drummond's study. Whitley closed the door, face troubled. I should have spoken sooner. I was afraid. But after what you did. He pulled out a folded paper. 3 months ago, Inspector Hartwell visited the estate. You were in London. He asked questions about your finances, your political connections. Seemed like routine magistrate business. And I saw him later that evening in the village tavern, meeting with Drummond. They didn't see me, but I heard fragments. Something about Manchester. About records kept separate from London files. Ferdinand's attention sharpened. What kind of records? I have a cousin in Manchester. Works at the customs house near the docks. I wrote to him, asked discreet questions. Whitley handed Ferdinand the letter. Hartwell keeps an office above a shipping warehouse. My cousin says he's seen children being processed through there. Dozens of them. Always at night. Always with paperwork that doesn't quite match the official registries. He's keeping a separate ledger. That's what my cousin suspects. Every child, every transaction, every forged document. The real records. If someone could get their hands on those, we could prove the custody papers were fake. Ferdinand stood, pacing. We could expose the entire network. If the ledgers exist. If we could find them. If we could get them out. Whitley's voice dropped. My lord, breaking into a magistrate's office is a serious crime. For someone of your station, even without the estate, it could mean prison. I don't care. The children need you free, not locked in Pentonville. Ferdinand stopped at the window. Saw Charles and Jessie playing in the courtyard, making the most of their last days here. Jenny teaching Judy to sketch the gardens before they had to leave. We're in Manchester, near the Albert Dock. Office above Brennan's warehouse. But my lord, how long by train? 3 hours. But you can't go alone. Hartwell's men will be watching the station. And if something goes wrong, then I'll need someone who can pick locks and fight if necessary. Ferdinand turned. Can you handle the children for 2 days? Of course, but good. I'm taking Miss Stevenson. Whitley's eyes widened. My lord, she's wanted for attempted murder. If she's caught, then we don't get caught. Vera refused at first. You've lost everything already. I won't let you risk prison too. If we don't do this, Drummond wins. The children are legally his. He can take them anytime. We have no proof the papers were forged, no way to fight him. Ferdinand gripped her shoulders. This is our only chance. Then I go alone. You stay with the children. No. Ferdinand. I've spent 7 years hiding from life. From risk. From anything that might hurt me again. His voice was fierce. I'm done hiding. We do this together or not at all. Jenny appeared in the doorway. You're going after him, aren't you? After Drummond. Not Drummond. Evidence that can stop him. It's dangerous. Yes. Jenny looked at her siblings, then back at Ferdinand. We trust you. Both of you. Just come back. I promise. That night, Ferdinand and Vera took the last train to Manchester. In the third-class compartment, Vera finally asked the question that had been burning since the study. What happens if the ledgers aren't there? Ferdinand watched the dark countryside blur past. Then Drummond keeps Blackwood Hall, keeps his trafficking network, and we run. Take the children to Scotland, maybe Ireland. Live as fugitives. And if the ledgers are there, but we can't get them out, then we die trying. Vera took his hand. 7 years ago, you lost everything and stopped living. Now you're about to lose everything again, and you've never been more alive. What changed? Ferdinand looked at their joined hands. Thought of Charles calling him Sir Count. Of Jessie's laugh. Of Jenny's fierce protectiveness. Of Judy's quiet strength. Of Vera, who'd poisoned a man to save 4 children she barely knew. You changed everything, he said simply. The train rattled through the night toward Manchester, toward Hartwell's warehouse, toward evidence that might save them or destroy them. Ferdinand had sacrificed his home for 4 children. Now he'd risk his life for them too. Because that's what fathers did. Even accidental ones. Manchester at midnight was coal smoke and fog and the smell of the docks. Ferdinand and Vera stood across from Brennan's warehouse, studying the building. 3 stories. Brick. 1 light burning in a second-floor window, Hartwell's office. There. Ferdinand pointed to a fire escape on the side. We go up, find the ledgers, photograph what we can, get out. You make it sound simple. It won't be. They'd brought a small camera, expensive, borrowed from a photographer friend of Whitley's cousin. If they couldn't carry the ledgers out, at least they could document them. The fire escape was rusted but held. They climbed in darkness, freezing metal biting through gloves. At the second floor, Ferdinand forced the window. Old lock, easy to break. Inside, an office that reeked of cigars and corruption. Vera lit a shielded lantern while Ferdinand searched. Desk drawers. Filing cabinets. Nothing but routine magistrate paperwork. It's not here, Vera whispered. We were wrong. No, it's here. Has to be. Ferdinand moved to the bookshelf, started pulling volumes. Behind a row of law books, a hidden panel. Inside, 3 leather ledgers. Ferdinand opened the first one. Page after page of names. Children's names. Ages. Origins. Destinations. Prices paid. Dear God, Vera breathed. There are hundreds. The second ledger. Forged documents. Practice signatures. Including Martha Campbell, a name Ferdinand didn't recognize. And Vera Stevenson. He's been perfecting your signature for months, Ferdinand said. Planning this. The third ledger. Payments. Drummond, yes. But 11 other names. Industrialists. Members of Parliament. Even a bishop. This could bring down half of London's elite, Vera whispered. They started photographing. Flash powder igniting, capturing page after page. They were halfway through the second ledger when footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Ferdinand grabbed Vera, pulled her behind the desk. The door opened. Inspector Hartwell, followed by 2 dock workers, massive men with scarred knuckles and empty eyes. I knew you'd come. Hartwell's voice was almost bored. Your steward isn't as discreet as he thinks. We've been watching the train station for 2 days. Ferdinand stood, positioning himself between Hartwell and Vera. You've been trafficking children for years. Forging documents. How many have died in those factories? I don't count commodities. Hartwell drew a pistol. Dropped the camera. Ferdinand dropped it. The flash powder scattered. The ledgers too. No. Then I shoot Miss Stevenson and frame you for her murder. Either way, you both disappear tonight. Hartwell aimed at Vera. Ferdinand moved. Grabbed his walking cane, the heavy silver-topped one he'd brought specifically for this, and swung it at Hartwell's gun hand. The pistol fired wild. The bullet shattered a window. One dock worker lunged at Ferdinand. They crashed into the filing cabinet, papers exploding everywhere. Vera grabbed the second worker's arm as he reached for her, used his momentum to throw him into the desk. He went down hard, but recovered fast. Ferdinand's opponent was stronger. Slammed him against the wall, driving the air from his lungs. Ferdinand brought his knee up, connected. The man grunted, loosened his grip. Ferdinand smashed the cane across his temple. He dropped. Hartwell had retrieved his pistol, aimed at Ferdinand's chest. Enough. Time slowed. Ferdinand saw Vera's face, saw his own death in Hartwell's eyes. Thought of the children waking up tomorrow without him. The gun roared. Pain exploded in Ferdinand's left shoulder. He went down, blood spreading across his shirt. Ferdinand. Vera's scream was animal. Hartwell swung the pistol toward her. Your turn, miss. Vera grabbed a longshoreman's cargo hook from the wall, 3 feet of steel with a wicked curved point. She didn't think, didn't hesitate. She drove it into Hartwell's neck. Blood sprayed. Hartwell made a choking sound, clawing at the hook. His knees buckled. He fell, convulsing, drowning in his own blood. The second dock worker ran, just abandoned his employer, and fled into the night. Vera pulled the hook free, dropped it, her hands shaking violently. Oh God, I killed him. I killed the ledgers. Ferdinand's voice was weak. Blood poured from his shoulder. Get the ledgers. The photographs. We have to. Footsteps below. Voices. Someone had heard the gunshot. Vera grabbed the 3 ledgers, shoved the camera and flash powder into her bag. She hauled Ferdinand upright, his blood soaking through her dress. I can't carry you. Then I'll walk. He gritted his teeth. Go. Now. They staggered down the fire escape, Ferdinand leaving a blood trail. Hit the street just as police whistles sounded from the warehouse. The docks. A cargo ship preparing to depart. Vera showed the captain 20 pounds, everything they had left. We need to reach London. Tonight. The captain looked at Ferdinand's blood, at Vera's desperate face, at the police converging on the warehouse behind them. Get below. Fast. They collapsed in the cargo hold as the ship pulled away from Manchester. Ferdinand was feverish, shaking, blood still seeping through Vera's makeshift bandage. Stay awake, she begged. Please, Ferdinand, stay awake. Did we get them? The ledgers. Yes. All 3. Good. His eyes fluttered. Tell Charles. Tell him I'm sorry. You'll tell him yourself. You're not dying. I won't let you. But as the ship carried them toward London, as Ferdinand's blood pooled on the wooden floor, Vera wasn't sure if her will was enough. She'd killed a man tonight. Ferdinand had been shot, and they still had to face Drummond. They reached London at dawn, Ferdinand barely conscious. Vera hired a cab with the last coins in her pocket. Home office. Whitehall. Fast. Miss, that man needs a hospital. He needs justice first. Lord Edmund Carver, Home Secretary, was at his desk early as always. His assistant tried to block them. Vera shoved past, ledgers clutched to her chest, Ferdinand leaning heavily against her. Carver looked up, startled, then saw Ferdinand's blood-soaked shirt. Good God, Cole. What? Vera dropped the ledgers on his desk. 217 children, 12 industrialists, 5 members of parliament, 1 bishop, all documented, all guilty. Carver opened the first ledger. His face went pale, then gray, then furious. This is Drummond? Hartwell? How did you? Doesn't matter. Ferdinand's voice was barely a whisper. Act now. Before Drummond, here's we're here. Carver was already shouting for his secretary. Get the Metropolitan Police Commissioner. Get the Lord Chancellor. Get them now. Within an hour, it began. Simultaneous raids across London. Drummond's Mayfair mansion. The Southampton docks where children were being loaded for that night's ship. Hartwell's London office. the homes of every industrialist in the ledgers. Drummond was arrested during breakfast, scrambled eggs still on his fork. He screamed about rights and lawyers and political connections. The commissioner threw the ledger at his feet. Your handwriting, your signature, your payments. You're done. By noon, 12 men were in custody. The trafficking network was shattered. Newspapers exploded with scandal. Members of parliament resigned in disgrace. And Ferdinand finally let Vera take him to hospital. The bullet had gone clean through his shoulder, but nicked an artery. Dr. Morrison, summoned from Devonshire, worked for 3 hours. Ferdinand survived, but barely. He woke 2 days later to find 4 children crowded around his hospital bed. Sir Count, Charles climbed up beside him. You came back. Told you I would. Ferdinand's voice was hoarse, but steady. Ginny held his hand, tears streaming. Mrs. Kemp said you might die. Takes more than that to kill a stubborn aristocrat. Judy had brought flowers from Blackwood's gardens, except they weren't theirs anymore. Jessie just stared at him with huge, relieved eyes. Vera appeared in the doorway. They've been here every day. Wouldn't leave. Neither would you. I'm told. Somebody had to make sure you didn't do anything else heroic and stupid. A week later, the High Court convened an emergency session. Ferdinand was there, arm in a sling. Vera beside him. The children in the gallery with Mrs. Kemp and Whitley. The Lord Chancellor read the verdict. Wallace Drummond's custody claim is hereby declared fraudulent and void. All adoption documents are invalidated. Mr. Drummond's assets are seized pending criminal trial. He looked at Ferdinand. Count Cole, your estate transfer was made under coercion and false pretenses. Blackwood Hall is returned to you with the Crown's deepest apologies. Additionally, Her Majesty has asked me to convey her personal gratitude for exposing this atrocity. Ferdinand stood. I want the children. Legal adoption. All 4 of them. Granted. Miss Stevenson, all charges against you are dropped. You're free. In the gallery, Charles cheered. The other children joined in. The Lord Chancellor actually smiled. 6 months later, Blackwood Hall was alive again. Truly alive. Ginny studied for Oxford entrance exams at the desk where Ferdinand's mother once wrote letters. Judy played Louise's piano. Ferdinand had finally opened the music room again. Jessie worked with Thomas Bridges, learning the land. Charles shadowed Ferdinand everywhere, learning what it meant to be a Cole. And Vera, pregnant and radiant, stood on the terrace watching her family. Ferdinand found her there as sunset painted the Devonshire hills gold. Any regrets? She asked. He thought of everything he'd lost, everything he'd risked. The bullet scar in his shoulder that still ached when it rained. Then he looked at the children playing in the gardens. At Vera's hand resting on her swelling belly. At the home that had been dead for 7 years, now bursting with noise and chaos and love. Not one. That evening, the whole family gathered in the library. Ferdinand read to the younger children while Ginny sketched, and Judy played softly in the background. Charles climbed into Ferdinand's lap. Papa. He'd started calling him that after the hospital. Ferdinand had cried. Yes, son. Are we really safe now? Forever? Ferdinand looked at Vera, at their chosen family, at the life they'd built from desperation and blood and impossible choices. Forever, he promised. Because family isn't something you're born into. It's something you fight for. And I'll fight for you every day for the rest of my life. Charles smiled and settled against his chest. Outside, night fell over Blackwood Hall. Inside, light and laughter filled every room. Ferdinand had spent 7 years dead. Vera and 4 broken children had dragged him back to life. He'd traded everything for them and gained everything that mattered. Home, family, love, the things worth dying for, the things worth living for. Ferdinand gave up his estate, nearly his life, and found something worth more than any title, a family worth fighting for. If this story moved you, subscribe now. Because stories of courage, sacrifice, and love are what we do here.
If you enjoyed this story, we appreciate you a whole lot and look forward to connecting with you as we build a community on this channel. Every day, we will put out more stories, so we need your support. Help us by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. You won't miss any new exciting videos. Check out the next video. You'll love it.